tied largely to the radio system, as well as some of the operational stuff, and then some kind of what I'll call kind of cleanup pennies in the out years. So in total, it's about 17 cents over a 5-year time period, taking on what would be roughly $31 million of new debt between the schools and the radio system. So we just want to let you see that. That includes operation, includes debt service, factors in utility schools, all those kind of things, based on the assumptions you saw on the prior couple pages.
Kyle, before you leave this page.
Yes, sir.
This is just if we left expenditures as they are.
Correct. Meaning as the 14 budget is
proposed. As it is proposed by the county administrator.
Yes, sir.
Of course, if we were to cut the budget by $1 million or $1.5 million, that would take care of the 5-cent tax increase proposed this year. So that's just a point for information for us to balance what we're seeing here.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
Does that include anything dropping off?
Anything what?
Anything dropping off?
No. Go ahead, Kyle. His question was, does that include anything that drops off of our current debt? Which it does?
Yeah, that would actually be, that'd be factored into the existing cash flows. So that's built in there.
So he's saying yes already. I thought 20.
Yeah, so if you're, so on that page, you were
2018 is when it goes down a lot. Okay. All right, thank you.
We've given you here maybe just for informational purposes, just so you can kind of see a variety of what I'll call other capital projects, maybe other priorities that they're sort of hope to get done one way or the other. Just wanted to show you what that would be estimated in terms of both the payment and the impact of the real estate tax rate. Just informational so you can see it. The biggest piece of that being the water supply project at about 5.5 pennies. Some other smaller things built in there. Again, this is you're kind of thinking about this, equating what you would need to do in terms of recurring revenue to pay for some of these things. That's basically it in terms of those various projects. One other just sort of informational slide, and then we'll get to a section where we can kind of play with some of these numbers a little bit. Just want to give you a sense of with the reassessment coming up, what we basically have built into into the numbers you've seen already is a 0.5% increase on real estate revenues. So that's about $90,000 that you would get with the January 1/15 reassessment. If you get better than that, which obviously is the hope, we just wanted to let you see what that would be in terms of revenues. So basically, you get 1% versus that 0.5%. It doubles it. You get an extra $180,000 versus 90. 2% goes up another $90,000. So it's kind of working in $90,000 increments in terms of the additional revenue you get if indeed assessed values on the real estate side came in above that 0.5% increase that we have built into the model. So just informational as you're kind of thinking about things and giving yourself a framework for what the impact might be in the future. So with that as a little bit of background, I'm going to take a second here. I'm going to pull up the live model here. And what we have set up for tonight is the ability to play with sort of live some of these growth assumptions if you'd like to. In terms of, and you can kind of see the various line items. Let me get the model pulled up and then we'll take that step.
Now before we do that, while you do that,
yep.
while you get set up, is $90,000 in additional revenue, that the 0.5 that he showed in there, that's 1.3 million or something in new real estate for us to get $90,000 in just real estate money.
But that's only if there's a reassessment and the value goes up 0.5%.
No, that's new additional real estate. New, if I come in and build a building that costs $1 million, we're going to get $72,000 in real estate tax from that building. My personal philosophy is if there's a reassessment, we equalize the rate so you don't pay more. That's the hope. We don't know that's going to happen.
I just say that because he said 2015 like we were doing a reassessment January 2015.
Yeah, but what we would do, what we normally do is equalize the rate and then leave it at that. Do we have different versions of Excel?
I think we do, but let's see.
Okay. We don't have to save it. And you said Mrs. Hatcher has a spreadsheet?
Yes, sir.
I'll send it to you tomorrow.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so what we can basically
I would
do, what you see right here are some of the key assumptions that underlie the numbers you've seen already. So what we can play with is, let me get the mouse out of the way here a second. Stop it. We can play with the real estate assessed value. So, Mr. Chairman, you were talking about that. We can sort of play with some of these out-year assumptions and see what the impact is in this particular line right here. See that? That's the 2.5, 3.1, da-da-da. That's the same numbers you saw. So we can play with real estate. We have public service in terms of assessed values, some of the personal property, machinery and tools, sales tax. Obviously, the biggest impact is going to be on the real estate side. We can play with tax rates as well as the number of new connections to the utility system. So,
all right. Well, since I'd ask for maybe 3. I know Mr. Akers had said this was a very conservative growth estimate. So let's just, and we are just looking at, examples. Let's say we grow a lot more than 0.5%.
yep.
Let's say we grow at $1 million with 72,000, 75,000 under what he's saying. Let's say we grow at twice that, so let's grow at 1%.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll think there's $2 million of new building every year that we would get real estate taxes on.
So if you drop that in, so you got a 1% every year thereafter, your 6.9 pennies goes down to 5.3 pennies. So you've shaved off about 1.6 pennies over that 5-year time period.
Okay, let me highlight that one. How many connections, Mr. Schiebel's gone? How many connections have we had, Mike, do you know, on the water system?
I think it's around 35.
35?
We have 37 this year. Oh, you mean in the plan,
No,
in the
actual.
budget? Actual paid this year? Or what did we budget?
No, actual paid this year.
This year, I think it's like 19 or 20. 21, something like that.
It's in the 20.
20?
If we have 37 in.
That's okay. So 20 houses at easy math at $200,000 a house is $4 million?
That's lower than the estimation there.
No. I'm trying to think real estate growth. Because if I say we got 20 houses and they cost $200,000 a piece, that's going to be $4 million.
Yeah, but what's our overall real estate value like?
I'm just trying to use round fuzzy math.
1 billion, 2 billion?
2.6
Yeah.
billion, I think.
So even 4 millions.
But $4 million, when we multiply it by the tax rate, is going to equal the amount of revenue we're talking about. And that's all I'm just trying to say is what the revenue is, not necessarily percentage. In that same growth, let's say there are 100,000. They're in Ladysmith Village,
If they're townhouses.
Carmel Church, whatever. I mean, 100,000. Just a
Okay.
guess number to give us an idea. If we say it's 20 $100,000 houses, that's $2 million. So that's $150,000 in additional revenue every year, which still looks like that growth number is a little high. I mean, a little low. Now, on the other hand, we're estimating real estate revenue, utility revenue based on 30 connections. So on one hand, I might be getting money because I'm getting real estate tax. On the other hand, I might be losing money because I don't have as much connections as I think. So that's why I thought it was a good thing for us to look at it interactively. So now, Kyle, if I say instead of 30 connections, is that up there?
Yep.
Okay, instead of 30 connections, I only get 20.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're at 5.3 right now in terms of pennies by the end of the time.
Okay. Boom.
So you see your 5.3 goes back up to about 6.
Right.
So that 10 houses is not quite 1 penny in terms of revenue.
Well, we've never seen this kind of thing before. I never knew the 10 houses was a penny. I don't know if you guys did, but I never knew that. And that's the kind of thing we need to look at. Okay. Anything one of you guys want to change? Jeff Black?
I mean, we're going to get this, we're going to be able to play with this, right?
Right. And we understand that it is your intellectual property. You are
Right.
just loaning us the spreadsheet. We use it under your license, and when you say give it back, we'll give it back.
Probably something like that. I mean, we've basically created this in-house, and I mean, it's not copyrighted. It's not.
But it is your intellectual property, and I understand a little bit about software licensing, so
Yeah.
we're not going to take it and run with it. We just want to get an idea.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Any other questions? You get a chance to play with it, we'll look at it, and then we can talk some more as we do the budget. Okay? Kyle, thank you very much.
We'll be able to, we'll have this at the work session, right?
Mrs. Hatcher's going to mail it to us tomorrow. So you'll have it, and the work session is Thursday. So
Yeah,
you'll have it.
And we're happy working with Ms. Hatcher and y'all to kind of work through any scenarios that there's something that, because I will say that there's a variety of moving pieces in this thing.
Yes.
So this particular page is pretty easy to mess with.
Okay.
In terms of changing, well, what you basically want to change are the blue text boxes, meaning if a number shows up in blue up there, you can change it and everything should kind of flow through. As you dig back farther into the spreadsheet, there's going to be a lot of sort of stuff linked together and kind of playing with each other. So I would probably caution digging much past this particular page.
We will, I know that once I've messed it up, I can start from scratch with the original email she sends. So we're just going to look at it like that.
Yep.
Okay. But it's really a tool, and Kyle, we really appreciate you coming here to show us, and we really appreciate the work that went into it. This is a great tool to help us in the budget process.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you again.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Does that sound like something the board wants to have as a good tool? Mr. Black, that works for you?
You can do it.
Okay. And then we can have our own discussions as we go through the budget. And you can say, well, I think we're only going to have 12 houses, and somebody else can say, look, if we have this is what it's going to mean. Okay. All right, new business. Agenda item number 6 is the approval of the supplemental appropriation for the additional work completing the audit. As you heard during the audit presentation, there was some additional work required on the audit, and that bill has been reduced quite a bit. And we now have a spreadsheet in front of us too, but we also actually have the bill. And
Mr. Chairman, this is basically just to pay the bill, is that not correct?
that's correct. With the original bill, as Mr. Akers pointed out, the original contract was $55,000. They had quite a bit of extra work, as they stated during their presentation, that information they had to get from additional sources. And the invoice amount was $30,000, so they reduced it a little bit, down to 23 total.
I thought 23 total was just the school share.
I'm sorry,
It's not-
that's just the school
It is
share.
$30,000.
Yeah, it's $7,000 for the county, 23 for the schools. County Sheriff's Department, $4,398. Capital assets, $6,000. So that was $10,000. They subtracted 3. The schools was $34,000. They subtracted 11 for 23. So the final bill is $30,000. How does the board wish to handle this?
Mr. Chairman, was this company the lowest bidder?
Mrs. Hatcher, is that a yes?
They were within about $2,000 of each other.
I didn't understand.
That was a yes or no. Was this one the lowest bidder?
They were within about $2,000 of each other for the bid.
Okay, one more time. Was this the lowest bidder?
No, they were within just about $2,000 higher.
I just have a problem with a company that, they made a bid to do the audit. And certainly, a county of our size, they should know how many hours it takes. And they come in at $55,000, and then they come back. If they had not given a discount, it would have actually been,
It would have been another.
$41,000, $42,000, almost what they bid to do the entire audit for the entire county. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me to come back and ask for an increase this size just for the additional hours they put in. And I have a major concern with that. A lot of times people do come in and give you a lowball figure. I'm not saying this company did, but a lot of people do, and just to get the business. And then when they see change orders take place or an opportunity to make some money somewhere else, they sock it to you. I just have an issue with
What would you like to do?
Mr. Chairman,
What
they
would you
may
like
have
to do?
saved us this much money based on their findings
They
and
have?
things.
You said they have saved us
They
this?
may have.
They may have, okay.
Not in one audit, but this is a different audit than we have ever seen before. And this is my fifth one to look at. And they did cover areas that had not been covered in the past. And
They
maybe
also-
the change in the audit procedures have thrown everybody into doing things differently. But I think the findings that they have may have actually given us some insight into some things we need to work on.
They also had to do some restatements from prior years that were not done correctly, and that did take up some of my audit cost.
Mr. Chairman, I think the other thing what the gentleman had told us tonight is, that he's here from the audit company, is that next year it shouldn't be, and his statement to us was it shouldn't be a lot because this is the first year doing it, so this is their first year going in with this. So, I mean, I think if we're going to look at changing, I don't know what the idea behind that is, but, I mean, I think you have to give them another year or two but before you say, hey, they're billing us too much.
Do I assume next year's bill is going to be $50,000?
It's already in the budget.
At $50,000?
It's a little bit higher than that.
There are still things not in the audit that we're going to have next year that we've already talked about.
Okay. Dale?
I guess my question is, when they decide that a change order is needed, especially for, and this, all of what you're saying could be true, but is there any way of staff knowing prior to their doing these things? I mean,
Well,
could they come and say, these are some things that need to be done, it's going to cost X number of dollars, and
And we've already addressed part of that in the fact that they've agreed to work with Ms. Zhao at the schools to change the schedule when they come, to be more accommodating to her schedule so that we won't have all these delays. We've already started all that type of thing.
I guess my question is, though, do we have a choice? I mean, they've done the work, I guess we got to pay them. But again, I would like to see in the future, if we're looking at this type of change order, we ought to know it prior to this being done.
Yeah, but
rather than afterwards.
I don't think they're saying these were change orders. What they were saying in the documentation is they would actually come, they were in Harrisonburg?
Yes.
They would come from Harrisonburg, mileage, drive to Caroline, and then the people at Caroline, whatever responsible department, A, wasn't ready for them, didn't show up, or B, didn't have the information they were supposed to talk about. So they turned around, went back home, but the meter kept running, which it should have.
But then maybe the department needs to look at their budget and adjust their budget to do that. If they're the ones, if those departments caused this, then those departments ought to pay for it.
Mr. Chairman, I absolutely agree with Mr. Taylor. If you cause an over in cost because you're not prepared, and they tell you you're coming or you don't provide the documentation, the citizens shouldn't have to pay this out of the additional cost to them. People need to be prepared.
Are you suggesting that the county pay the bill and then reduce appropriations to the departments that are listed?
Indeed, I am, Mr. Chairman.
Is that in the form of a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Taylor. Motion made by Mr. Underwood, seconded by Mr. Taylor, that the county will, of course, pay the $30,000 invoice, but we will subtract, make additional changes to the appropriations of the departments that incurred the cost. Mr. Black, you had a question?
I mean, I'm in agreement with you guys. I just don't think that it should be done this year. I think the warning should be sent out to them that, you know, any overages next year would be paid by the departments. My thing is you let them know in advance.
Maybe we can get the auditor to give us a warning this year that they had to do this additional cost. Next year, do it. If they don't, give us a warning this year.
Hopefully, we won't have this issue again because we did a lot of cleanup of a lot of the records, and we've already started, they've already agreed to change their timing with the schools, so hopefully this will not be an issue again.
So they give us a warning this year. This is what's going to happen for the next 4 years. This is a 5-year contract, not a 1-year contract.
So, Mr. Taylor.
This is what we're talking about are services rendered by this company, and basically people were not up to par, basically negligent in their responsibility to an audit. This is not fun and games. This is an audit of our records and procedures of what we need to do. You should be ready. You should follow the processes and procedures that are in place. And if you don't do it, you should suffer the consequence.
Ms. Hatcher, this is,
Black.
okay. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Go ahead and ask your question.
Was this a problem? I mean, I'm just trying to think back to last year. Did we have this problem with the previous company? Did we have these overages? I mean, were we seeing?
No, we did not,
Okay.
but we did have difficulties.
So, okay, well, yeah.
Be difficult days ahead. Martin said.
Mr. Taylor's motion is twofold. One, the county pays. Two, the county bills the departments that caused the delay or caused the extra work. Now, I understand that the extra $7,000 from the sheriff's office was actually additional work and not that they weren't ready or didn't meet things. We could also have a motion to, or another amendment to his motion that just pays the bill. We take it as a warning, as somebody said, or we go ahead and do the others.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not willing to rescind or amend my motion.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make the secondary motion that we pay the bill and that a warning is given.
Right.
So the secondary motion.
I said I wasn't willing to amend.
Right. And your motion is to state again, please?
We pay the bill and give them the warning that next year any overages are paid by the departments.
Okay.
Second.
So there's a second to your motion. So we need to vote on the secondary motion first. All in favor of just paying the bill this year, or excuse me, all in favor of removing the second part of Mr. Taylor's motion?
Well, actually,
Mr. Underwood. Say aye.
Aye.
Okay. I was going to say aye, too. All opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so we're kind of stuck.
could
All right, well, let me work on the stuck part. Mr. Underwood, would you withdraw the second part of your motion, please, so I can get the bill paid? And we're at 3-3, so I can't pass your motion without the second part, or with the second part. Can you please withdraw the second part, then I can get the bill paid, and we can discuss while we're doing the budget process if we're going to impact other departments. You make a great point. I just need to pay this bill.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Just point of order. We voted on the second motion.
The secondary motion did not have a majority.
That's correct.
It failed.
Right.
So since it failed, your motion is now on the floor to be voted on.
Absolutely.
As it is, which is why I'm asking you to withdraw the second part of your motion at this time so I can pay the bill.
With all due respect, Mr. Chairman, I can't do that.
That is your procedure, or that is your privilege.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Underwood's motion is on the table. to actually pay the $30,000 bill and make the appropriate refund request to the departments that caused it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Doesn't sound like there was a lot of votes there. Mr. Black, how do you vote?
Nay.
Mr. Seeley?
Nay.
Mr. Underwood?
Aye.
Mr. Akers?
Nay.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye. I wanted to talk, but you wouldn't let me, so I just...
No, we don't need to talk about it. We just had the two choices. All right. We have, his motion is going to fail or not pass either way. So, all right, let's, that motion dies for lack of a majority also.
Yes, sir.
Could we have just a motion to pay the $30,000?
I make a motion, we pay the $30,000 and debate how we get the money back at a future date.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Seeley, seconded by Mr. Black, that the county will pay the $30,000 additional bill from the auditors. Discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Nay.
Mr. Black, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Seeley?
Aye.
Mr. Underwood?
Nay.
Mr. Akers?
Nay.
Mr. Taylor?
Nay.
I vote aye. We can't pass, we 3-3, we don't want to pay the bill?
We can go and ask them, as he said, if they would withdraw the bill and see what they say. We can always...
They've already, this is the third time they've done that.
Fourth time may be the charm.
We got the
Go
bill.
back and tell them.
No,
Black
no,
said
no, no,
about,
Okay.
Good idea.
About
They do
what?
the same to us. This is the first year we've dealt with this company. They have asked for things in the past that the auditors have not asked for. The personnel records for the schools is one thing that they have asked for.
Well,
I would
now,
say-
if we're going to
wait,
discuss,
wait,
if we're going to
wait,
discuss
wait,
that, then we're going to discuss findings here real soon, Mr. Chairman.
Gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman, I'm
No,
telling you.
whoa. Time out.
Can I finish?
The motion, well,
Finish?
no, we got enough of your point.
No, I want to-
But the motion for everything failed. What we now have to do, by default, is ask staff to go back and talk to the auditor about reducing this bill again, and then they can bring it back to the board.
Mr. Chairman?
Well, I think we're kind of done here.
No, Mr. Chairman?
All right, I'll give you one last point. and then
One
we're done.
last time. They did additional work for deficiencies that we had. We have the list of deficiencies. If we want to discuss the list of deficiencies and see what we saved, we can start that now. And I will say that we either pay the bill or we're going to start down the list of deficiencies.
Well, we have tried, with all due respect, 3 times to pay the bill. What we are going to do now, since we cannot come to a majority to do either or, we're going to ask staff to go back, talk to the audit company one more time, explain the board situation, the feelings of particular members of the board with regard to the bill, and then we'll bring it back on the 26th and have a chance to try it again. All right, we're moving on to agenda item number 7, which is the radio system contract, which board members just received today.
Mr. Chairman, in light of the discussion that we just had about change orders on contracts, and having not read this contract, I move that we table this until we have sufficient time to read to make sure that that isn't going to impact us in the future.
I think you have a good point, Mr. Seeley. I spoke to the representative of Motorola during our break, and
I second that motion.
they would like, I thought that was a statement.
No,
Okay.
it's a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and statement, same?
Motion, statement.
2 for 1. I
2
love
for
it.
1.
All right. Okay, actually, the Motorola folks would like to get this back on the 26th, so we'll bring it back on the 26th. I don't know if that's enough time, but we'll try just like they did. Mr. Emerson completed it yesterday. So we've had legal review. Mr. Munoz is here. Our consultant had a review. Are there any questions, since we've got our consultant here and the clock is ticking, for him specifically? Our consultant, Mr. Munoz. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, we had another locality that actually had this contract, and they sent it to their EDA they picked 2 EDA members to actually review, that do technical things, and they had a number of